What's going on, guys? It's Seth back with another Defense Wins Fantasy, part of the Fantasy Holics Podcast Network. We're continuing to dive in to the top 10 players in the positions from the 2022 season. On the defensive side, last week we covered linebackers and defensive ends. This week we got D tackles, cornerbacks, and safeties. So we're going to dive right in. We've got a lot to talk about. And we're going to start on the defensive line with the D tackles. It was a really good year for D tackles. I remember a few years ago, it just wasn't, it was slim pickings when it came to D tackles. It was Aaron Donald, end of list for the majority of that aspect. But we've got guys that are coming in hot on tackles, coming in hot on sacks. I mean, we have five guys in the top 10 with plus 10 sacks from the D tackle spot. You got to love that. So we're going to dive right in with number one from this season. My man, Christian Wilkins of the Miami Dolphins. 3.5 sacks this year. That's not where he made his hay. He had 59 solo tackles, 39 assisted tackles. Insanity to have that many tackles. On top of that, he's got a lot of pass deflections, a fumble recovery, a fumble forced. Just a monster in the middle for that Miami defense that was hit or miss at times, but he was always hit. This guy's had a motor since he was drafted out of Clemson, and he's really starting to come to fruition. Coming into his fifth-year option with the Miami Dolphins, I expect them to try to get something done this offseason, but their cap room could be an issue, so they might be kind of stuck hanging on to him for another year. But we'll see. I mean, once again, you got to just give it to him. That has been an absolutely spectacular season on a team that, defensively wise, probably didn't have a ton of bright spots, but in fantasy, they had a few big-time players, and we'll continue to talk about those. But once again, Christian Wilkins, coming into next year, I expect more of the same as long as he's with the Dolphins. Now, there is one interesting aspect on what makes me a little bit nervous, is they did just fire their defensive coordinator today, so there is going to be changes with this defense. We're just going to have to see how that's going to look. Are they going to go more with a 4-3 rather than a 3-4? We're just going to have to keep an eye on who they bring in and what they're wanting to do. They've got a lot of flexibility with that line. Christian can play D-end in a 3-4, D-tackle in a 4-3. They've got Jalen Phillips. They've got Chubb, and then Emmanuel Ogbah. They've got a lot of people that are kind of in that 3-4, 4-3 defensive end spot, and it's going to be interesting on how we do it. I think it's going to be, but once again, Christian Wilkins is one of those guys, motor never stops. And so he's going to just continue to try to get these tackles. He had more tackles than any players had from a D tackle spot in the last 50 years, I think it was. Something crazy like that. So kudos to you, good sir, for finishing in the top spot this year. Next on the list, who was second last year, consistency, Cameron Hayward. Last year he did it with tackles, had a ton, and he still had a lot this year. He had 39 solo, 35 assisted, but he had 10.5 sacks for that Pittsburgh defense. And this was a lot of it with TJ Watt not there. So they could focus on Cam, but they still didn't, I guess. I mean, he just getting it done. Yeah, he's up there in years a little bit. I mean, let's talk about it. He's 33. He's been in the league for a really long time out of Ohio State. But as I talked about before this last season, D tackles don't have a significant drop-off because they're not losing their speed, and their strength stays a lot longer than speed does in the NFL. And Hayward, I have no question or concern that he won't be a top 10 guy again next year. He's just one of those guys that's in a great position. He's on a great team with a great scheme for him, and they know how to use him. So Cam Hayward, once again, 10.5 sacks, though. That is monstrous. Next on the list is a little bit of a guy that came out of left field, and that's Daron Payne for the Washington Commanders. 25 years old. This was his 4th year. He's a free agent after this, coming out of Alabama. This guy had 11.5 sacks, 32 solo tackles, 32 assisted. Getting his hands up, had 5 deflections. He was a bright spot on this Washington defense, and the big question with him, will he be back? And I don't know what's going to happen with him. I think he can go out there and he can make a whole lot of money, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, it's good for him, obviously, but he made a significant jump this year. His rookie year, he had 5 sacks. That was the highest he had had. He had 4.5 last year and went to 11.5 this year. He had about the same amount of tackles last year, but that sack number jump is the significant factor of that. What that means for going forward, it's a little bit more of a wild card situation because sacks aren't as predictable as tackles. But getting around 60 total tackles as a D tackle is a pretty solid number. You'd like to see it, and he's been doing that consistently. The only problem is that when you're going to have a high season like this, I don't know if he's going to be able to go much higher. 11.5 sacks is a lot. But I think it all depends on what type of team he goes to. And really just understanding what their scheme is and what they're wanting out of their D tackle. I don't know, for the gut of me, just feels like Detroit seems like a spot that he might just fall into. But then again, Detroit's got a high enough pick that maybe they just go into the draft and try to get their D tackle help. This is a bit of a wait and see, but I think as far as D tackles go, you'd be happy with him. He'd probably be a top 20 guy, even if he falls off on the sacks. But like I said, going from 4.5 to 11.5 is a little bit nervous for me. 4th on this list of D tackles is Kansas City Chris Jones. 30 solo tackles, 14 assisted, 15.5 sacks. I thought Quinnen Williams had a great season when it came to sacks. 15.5 sacks from the D tackle spot. You gotta love that. Once again, this is another one where it's a bit of a jump from last year's 9, but he did 9 sacks in 14 games compared to the 17 games that he played this year. And he has actually gotten 15.5 sacks before, back in 2018. He's a guy that's not as heavy on the tackles, but he has been, his last 4 seasons, let's go with this. 15.5 sacks, 9, 7.5 sacks, 9, and then, his 5th season, so this is 2022, 15.5 sacks. He gets after the quarterback. He's a big play monster. He's 28 years old, and he has the opportunity to continue to be successful there in Kansas City. He's got more help around him than he really ever probably has in his career. With George Karlaftis, with Nick Bolton is a pass rushing linebacker, and Frank Clark. There's a lot around him that's helping him be successful. I don't see this being an issue. I see him continuing to be successful because he also has Patrick Mahomes, who is going to keep them in good game scripts to be able to get those sacks. Now, number 5 on this list has been a stalwart in the top 3, top 5 the last few years, really probably his entire career actually, and that's DeForest Buckner for the Indianapolis Colts. I'm going to be honest, when he moved to Indianapolis, I got a little nervous about his, ability to maintain the level of play that he was doing in San Francisco. Now, he did have a little bit of a drop-off from 20 to 21, but he bumped up again this last year. He had 8 sacks. He had 74 total tackles, fumble recovery, forced fumbles, 3 passes defended, which honestly is a little bit low for him. But, I mean, he's just getting it done. At one point in time, both the D tackles in Indy were in the top 3 of the league. Now, obviously, ebbs and flows with sacks and everything like that. He ended up at number 5 for the entire season, but a very, very consistent player. Once again, he only had 8 sacks. Only had 8 sacks for a D tackle. That's a great number, and that's part of it. I mean, he's been right around that number for his entire career. Highest being 12, lowest being 3 his second year in San Fran. But yeah, 7.5 to 9.5 sacks is kind of his wheelhouse. You're going to get that 60 to 70-ish tackles. You know what you're getting with this guy. And he's 28 years old as well. I mean, there is a lot of guys that are going. 28 is the prime of these D tackles. They have the strength. They don't need the speed to get after the quarterback coming from the middle. It's all about that focused energy. DeForest Buckner at least has 2 to 3 more really, really, really strong seasons going for him. So he's a guy, him and Chris Jones, I would even say, are probably guys you could make an offer and try to trade for. They look at the age, they think, well, he's probably going to fall off here soon. I don't see it. I see 3 more years. You kind of get him for, an inexpensive draft pick, something that people aren't really looking at, but you get a guy that can just set him and forget him. And that is so important especially when it comes to D tackles, because there's so much up and down. You could get a guy that has a tackle one week and that's it. And absolutely wrecks your team. If you want a guy that's going to be consistent, a Chris Jones, a DeForest Buckner, or those kind of players, and they're at that age where people get a little nervous, I feel like 27, 28 is kind of outside of like quarterbacks is when everybody kind of gets a little bit nervous, because that's kind of the running back drop-off, so everybody kind of feels that's the age that will end it. So with that being said, make an offer. See what you can get. Those guys are solid. I personally traded DeForest Buckner last offseason, probably prematurely. However, I had already sitting on my bench, and now my starter, number 6 on this list, Quinnen Williams for the New York Jets. This dude had a breakout season. 12 sacks, 55 tackles, 35 of those were solo, 4 passes defense, 2 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery. He escalated his game significantly in the sack category this season. He went from 6 to 12. It was by far the most sacks that he's ever had. Once again, you have to be a little concerned because all of his point bonuses came from increasing sacks. He was overall right around the same amount of tackles he's been the last 3 years. What is his last 3 years, Seth? 55 tackles, 53 tackles, 55 tackles. So, that tells you anything. He's been somewhat consistent. But let's look deeper. When he had 55 tackles in 2020, he only played 13 games, so he was actually on pace for a lot more. When he had 53 tackles last year, he only played 15 games, on pace for a little bit more. This year he had 16 games. So at least how many games played is trending in the right direction. But when you look at all of it together, you're getting somebody pretty consistent there as well. The sack numbers, I think, is something that will stay with this defense because DeForest Buckner played under Robert Saleh as well in San Francisco, and they know how to use an athletic big man in the middle. And Quinnen Williams is that. He is 25 years old. He's young, he's aggressive, and he's on a team that if they can just get a quarterback, they'll be in a better game script. And this was on a team, him and DeForest Buckner really had terrible game scripts for the majority of the season. Washington even had a lot better game script. But those two guys, not ideal. Especially the back half of the season, Quinnen Williams really struggled on the game script, but still produced. Now we're looking at number 7 on this list. And this guy, man, I'll tell you what, I expected his stats to be higher just because whenever I was watching their games, I felt like he was just always all over the field. And part of that is the back half of the season, he absolutely went on a bit of a mission. From November, really the last game in October on, he was just destroying people. And it was but it was hit or miss. It wasn't every game. But when he did go off, he went off massively. And that is Javon Hargrave of the Philadelphia Eagles. This dude finished the season with 11 sacks, 60 total tackles, 37 of those being solo, 2 fumble recoveries, a fumble forced. Not as many pass defenses as some of the other guys with only 2. But what I saw out of him was the absolute week-winning games. He had multiple games where he had 2 or more sacks. He had a 2-sack game October 30th. He followed that up with a 3-sack game the November 3rd against Houston. And then another 2-sack game against Chicago. That's what I wanted to point out. He got sacks against bad teams. And when you are only performing against bad teams, I get a little nervous. He's going to be turning 30 next season. Still think he's going to be solid, but I don't think he's going to be a guy that has a repeat performance like this. That front 7 has been absolutely dynamic, just tearing it up. He's phenomenal for right now. He was phenomenal for this season. But I don't know if he's going to be able to necessarily repeat that. Once again, 11 sacks. His career high before then, 7.5. Also with Philly last year. Is it that he's getting better in the scheme? Are they using him better, or is it just part of the product there? My concern with him is that anybody on that front 7 can get to the quarterback at any point in time. It's a crapshoot. It's more the scheme, it's more the setup than maybe it is the player. I don't know. It's a guy that I love watching this year. I just wouldn't be going out and trading for him. If I have him, hang on to him, feel good about it, unless somebody blows you away with a deal. Outside of that, just kind of monitor, watch, and see what you get. So now, we're moving on to number 8. And the interesting part about number 8 is he is on the same team as a player we've already spoken about. Now, I told you DeForest Buckner and his teammate were in the top 5 earlier this season. However, this is not the Indianapolis Colts. This is the Washington Commanders, and this is Jonathan Allen. 28-year-old out of Alabama. Man, there's a lot of D tackles out of Alabama right now in the league that are just stellar. So, obviously, they get a lot of good talent. But Jonathan Allen had 65 tackles this year, 44 of those being solo, 2 forced fumbles, a fumble recovery, 4 passes defended, 7.5 sacks. Now, this guy dropped down on sacks this year. However, was very, very good still. Yeah, he dropped down a sack and a half, but it didn't hurt his overall points per game as badly as some of, you would expect it to be. He was consistent. He only had 1 goose egg all season long, and that was against Green Bay. I'd have to look back. I don't know if he got injured in that game, but he was just putting up solid numbers, decent amount of tackles in each game, at least 3 in almost every game all season long. And that's kind of what I want out of a D tackle, is I want somebody that has the capability of getting sacks. That's not going to be lost on me, but is going to make sure that he's not going to give you a 0. Getting a 0 is so demoralizing. And then you get started thinking in your head, should I start him? Should I not? He got me that goose egg, but he scored a whole lot of points the week before. Give me somebody maybe that gets 4 less sacks a year than the top guys, but gives me more tackled balance. That's where I'm at, and that's what I prefer out of my D tackles. Going on to number 9, and this one could be a little bit of an argument back and forth. Dexter Lawrence for the New York Giants. Is he a D end? Is he a D tackle? You can argue all day, but he's eligible for a D tackle in a lot of leagues, so we're going to talk about him as a D tackle in a lot of leagues. 25-year-old out of Clemson, has had a couple really good seasons back-to-back here. This year he had an absolute explosion when it comes to sacks. He went from 2.5 sacks last year to 7.5 sacks this year. 54 tackles last year to 68 total tackles, 35 of those being solo. Fumble recovery, fumble force. This New York Giants defensive line is getting very scary, very fast. And I'm here for it, man. I'm here to see the Giants kind of get back into being relevant. They're in the playoffs. They beat the Vikings already. This team is young, hungry, and good. And I really hope to see Dexter Lawrence continue to be a part of that. Again, he did have a big jump in sacks, but to me it also is kind of about the time that he should be getting a big jump in sacks based upon age and everything else. That being said, it's another kind of Eagles situation where there's going to be a lot of pass rushers, and is there going to be enough sacks to go around? I feel like if there's going to be people that end up with sacks, it's going to be a guy like Dexter Lawrence who's coming more from the interior rather than them trying to focus on Kayvon on the outside, Azeez Ojulari on the other side. This team is going to turn it around quick and in a hurry as far as getting in good game scripts and being able to be successful. So I, for one, am excited about Dexter Lawrence's future. You might be able to kind of play it off trading for him and saying, he had his career year this year. He probably is not going to be able to continue to move forward or higher on that, which I think he will be able to get into that 10 sack category in the future. And the final guy that we're going to talk about had honestly a little bit of a drop-off year, but it wasn't because he's not good or didn't have a good season comparative to the previous season. It's because he missed a couple games, and this is Jeffrey Simmons for the Tennessee Titans. 54 tackles this year, 25 of those solo. Last year, how many tackles did he have? 54. However, 42 of those were solo. So if you count them differently, he had a tremendous drop in solo tackles. But he had 7 passes defended this year. He had 7.5 sacks compared to 8.5 sacks last year. A forced fumble, and he played in 15 games compared to 17 last year. This guy is going to get a new contract. This dude he's the real deal, man. He's a massive human being. He's only 25 years old as well. And he's just so good at blocking up that middle. But he also is able to get to the quarterback. He's a guy that, personally, if you have to play D tackles, I know he was like the 10th guy this year. But man, he is just been a force his entire time for Tennessee. That was such a great draft pick by them. When did he go? 19th in that draft. 19th draft pick. Same draft as Christian Wilkins, who fantasy-wise was number 1 this year. But he's a couple years older. Christian Wilkins is at 27 compared to Jeffrey Simmons is 25. All I have to say is that if I had either of those two guys, I'd be pretty happy with a set it, forget it mentality on there. One thing I want to talk about, we didn't talk about him in the top 10. We talked about Grover Stewart a little bit earlier for Indianapolis. He was next to DeForest Buckner. He did finish 11th with 4 sacks. It was mostly a tackle type of situation that made him beneficial this year. 70 total tackles. So that is such a huge outlier. He doubled his points per game from the previous year to now, but he's a player to keep an eye on. Zach Sealer out of Miami. So we have a lot of teams that have 2 D tackles that are very close to the top, but Zach Sealer is a free agent, and that one is going to be interesting to see what they do with him, if they are trying to re-sign him or if they don't have the cap room and see him go somewhere else. He's been an absolute stellar piece to that defense after being drafted out of in 2018 to the Ravens in the 7th round. Holy cow. He's a guy to try to see because he's probably going to be going to a role where he's going to get more percentage of snaps, and he's been really, really good. We pull up what his tackles were this year. 70 total tackles, just like Grover Stewart. So those are a couple guys to keep an eye on. Guys that kind of fell off a little bit this year. Grady Jarrett out of Atlanta ended at D tackle number 14. And Aaron Donald, that's the guy that everybody's like, well, what the heck? D tackle 18 on the season. Now, granted, he missed some games. He only played 12 games this year. In those 12 games, he had 5 sacks and 50 solo tackles. 49, but 50. Tells me he still got it, but I'm concerned if he's going to be back. I mean, if you're talking about points per game, from 2018 to now, he's lost a significant amount. We're talking over 10 points per game. I still think he's that dude. I think this entire season was just weird for the Rams, and we're just going to have to see what all plays out. But he's a guy that if you didn't trade him last offseason, you've now lost value in him significantly. Everybody sees the drop. I mean, he had been D tackle 1 for 5-6 years straight for sure. So if you traded him away before this season, congratulations. If you traded for him before this season, sucks. Sorry, that's all it is. It just sucks. But not saying he's dead in the water. I think that there's still a lot of opportunity that guy can be successful. It's just he's not going to be what he was before. So we're going to move on to the cornerbacks at this point in time. And we're going to talk about L'Jarius Sneed, Kansas City. My goodness, this guy came a little bit out of left field. Just absolutely had a monster season. He's 25 years old. And, 108 total tackles from a cornerback. He plays nickel, which is, a little bit of boost on those tackles. 75 of those were solo, 33 were assisted. He had 3 forced fumbles, a fumble recovery, 3 interceptions this year. Really just doing everything that needed to be done for that Kansas City defense. They've had a really, really good year this year as far as defense is concerned. Not many people are talking about that, but he is one of the reasons. We already talked about Nick Bolton, but he's another one of those reasons on why this team was so successful. So what do you do with a guy like that? 25 years old, plays corner. Now, granted, he does play in that slot. And playing that slot helps you out a lot. But I don't know if this is a repeatable performance. Having over 100 tackles. For comparison, last year, 76 tackles compared to 108. 57 solo compared to 75 solo. 2 interceptions to 3. Very comparable there. But you're talking about a significant drop in the tackles. I don't see it being him being a 100 tackle guy going in the future. So what do you do with him? You try to get some value out of him is what you try to do. This guy wasn't drafted maybe at all in redraft leagues, IDP. Dynasty leagues, young enough that people probably had him, but I guarantee you this guy was mostly a waiver wire pickup weeks 1 through 3. Flip it, turn it, get him, trade him to somebody that likes corners, feels like, there's a fantastic thing, because he wasn't just the best corner. Let me specify. He wasn't even just the best cornerback last year. He was the best defensive back, including all the safeties. Take advantage of that situation. L'Jarius Sneed will not repeat at the top of the cornerback room, and that's just the way it is. It's just not gonna. He's not gonna have the cards fall this way. And if he does, what did you gain? You got the same place you were before. So if you trade him, able to turn that into maybe another position of need, because cornerback is such a crapshoot. Get something a little bit more consistent that you feel good about, and let somebody else take the risk. Number 2 on the list, defying the odds and my philosophy on cornerbacks, is Jalen Ramsey of the LA Rams. Part of it is he had just a lot of big plays. He had 3 sacks this year, 4 interceptions, and 88 tackles, 64 solo. Tells me he's lost a step because he's been getting a lot of tackles the last few years. This is his last 3 years of total tackles, if this tells you anything. 2020, 36 total tackles. 2021, 62 total tackles. 2022, 64. I apologize. Those are the wrong numbers. 44 in 2020. I was looking at solo tackles. 77 in 2021. 88 2022. He's getting slower. He's allowing passes to be completed. He is still intercepting them at a high rate. 4 last year, 4 this year. And he had 3 sacks to add it to there too. They're playing him a little bit more in that corner spot. So L'Jarius Sneed is getting the same kind of thing that Jalen Ramsey is. He's getting a little bit more tackle heavy, but I do actually feel comfortable that Jalen Ramsey will be significantly involved and a good corner next year. With me, I personally don't like to trade for corners. I don't really ever feel comfortable just because it's such a crapshoot. And you look at the first few weeks of the regular season when it starts and you grab some guys that are having a hot year and ride them and hope. But as far as consistency goes, he was in the top 10 last year. He's in the top 10 again this year. Jalen Ramsey, I feel good about it, because he has lost his step that had made him unpassable. Like, they were avoiding the pass to him. That's not happening anymore. He is now just a guy, but a guy that has ball skills, has the ability to sack the quarterback, and wrap up and tackle. He's just not the shutdown corner that he used to be, which is terrible for fantasy. So now I feel better about him than I did probably the last couple years. So now we're moving on to the third corner. This is Rasul Douglas out of Green Bay. Step 1. Play across from a shutdown corner. Jari Alexander is the other guy on the other side of the ball. He is still a guy that people don't want to throw to. So what's that do for Douglas? 85 tackles, 69 of those solo, which means most of those are when he's being passed to. 4 picks this year. Absolutely stellar year. Last year, Arizona/Green Bay, he only played 12 games total in that season. But in those 12 games, he had 5 interceptions. So this guy's a ball hawk. He's had 4 interceptions, 5 interceptions, 5 interceptions the last 3 years. He's figured it out. He honestly has... I apologize. That was 4 interceptions, 5 interceptions the last 2 years. The year before that, he didn't have any picks. They combined the total, so I was looking at the number wrong. But this is a guy, flies up the board, falls off the board. I don't expect a repeat type situation. In fact, this year, he was significantly worse than he was last year. But overall, scoring for corners is kind of down this year. So, excuse me. So, take it as you will. I feel like most of my advice is going to be kind of the same on these guys. It's like, well, it's a corner. It's a corner. But we get into a little bit of our youth now with Tariq Woolen, the number one fantasy corner this season. Rookie fantasy corner, that is. So this dude had, dear Lord, 63 tackles, 46 of those solo, but that's not what I'm dear Lord about. He had 3 fumble recoveries, opportunists there. And I did not realize he had 6 interceptions, 1 for a touchdown. 6 pick as a rookie is a pretty darn good start. He's going to have another year or two good, possibly, with 6 interceptions his rookie year. They're probably going to start respecting him a little bit faster than some of the other guys. In fact, let me see what his stats were like. He didn't have a pick after December 4th. He had, a 4-game stretch of an interception early in the season. Yeah, so it tells you that they started throwing away from him late last season, and that's something that you can kind of expect to continue. Something that you want to pay attention to. So Tariq Woolen is a guy that I would actually look to trade. Somebody that's young and people are like, oh man, this dude's going to really take care of business. He's going to get into shutdown corner situation faster than probably we feel comfortable about. Next on the list, number 5 on this list, is another oldie but a goodie, Patrick Peterson. Man, some of these guys are resurging. They're not. They are now losing a step, and so now they're just being a guy that gets a few more tackles. He had 66 total tackles, 56 of those being solo. That many solo means that he got burned and tackled the dude. 5 interceptions, though. 5 picks is a lot, obviously. A sack and all that, way bigger numbers than last year. He went from 45 tackles last year to 66 this year. 1 interception to 5 interceptions. Quite a spike. The Minnesota Vikings were good. They were in precious game situations. Listen, you're not trading for Patrick Peterson. You're not going to get anything to trade away Patrick Peterson. Dude's 32 years old. I don't even know if he'll be in the league next year, Patrick Peterson. But be happy with what you have and just hang on to it. And it is what it is at this point. These older guys have no value as far as trade, but they do have value on the field, obviously. There is that window between the first couple years of a career, then the corners hit their stride to about 28, 29. Then it starts to fall off, but they get more tackles. They get more opportunities to get picks because they started throwing the ball back to them if they were really, really, really good corners. That's where Patrick Peterson is. Now he's on the back end getting opportunities to try to pick off the ball and get tackles. Next guy we're going to talk about is Desmond King, cornerback for the Houston Texans. 89 tackles, 59 of those being solo, 2 interceptions, 2 fumble recoveries. Listen, we're not saying anything we didn't say last year with Desmond King. He had almost the exact same stat line. He had 93 tackles instead of 89. He had 3 interceptions instead of 2. This guy's a good player, and the one thing I was concerned about is in 2020, he was on 2 different teams. He was kind of meh, not great. He had a really strong start to his career with the Chargers, but then he kind of got moved in the middle of the season to Tennessee, then went to Houston. And Houston's on defense a lot. So at some point, those numbers are going to fall off some, but he's a guy that's available and is going to have an opportunity, so why not? Next on the list is Jonathan Jones for the New England Patriots. In a contract year, ironically. Yeah, number 7 on the list. Now, this guy, a little bit out of left field. You know why he came out of left field? Because the guy in front of him or his counterpart went to the Chargers and had a terrible year. But Jonathan Jones reprised that role and sat here and went bonkers. Last year, he only played 6 games. In those 6 games, he had 1 interception, 20 tackles. He played 16 games this year, 69 tackles, 56 of those solo, had 3 forced fumbles, 4 interceptions, and a touchdown. Big playability with Jonathan Jones, but don't fall into the same trap. He's a free agent, probably going to leave New England to get paid. When he does, he will not be what he was. This was a one-year hit wonder. He's significantly outkicked his coverage with some of these things. Now, 2 years ago when he played more games, he had 74 tackles, 60 of those solo, so very similar to what he did this year. But this is all on New England. And he's not necessarily a young buck. He's turning 30. So I don't know what this opportunity, like I said, he had a great year, so he's probably going to go try to get paid, make that money. But we'll just have to see what plays out. But it's a guy that, hey, I'm in the top 10, and hey, now I'm gone. That's just how that's going to be. So number 8 on our list is another rookie. That's Sauce Gardner, who, he had 2 interceptions this year, 75 tackles, 51 of those being solo. But the number that to me is just absolutely ridiculous is 20 passes defended. Now, if you get points in your league for passes defended, which you should for corners because that's them doing their job, but 20 passes defended is absolutely insanity. Sauce Gardner was, in my opinion, the best corner in the draft. All he's done is proven that this year. He has just been stellar for the Jets. He's 6'3", 200 pounds. He's just a monster out there. Not intimidated by anybody, so you just love to see it. That being said, next year is probably, I don't think next year is not even worth it. I don't think that he's going to be in the top 10 next year because they're not going to be throwing to him next year. If you have Sauce Gardner on your team, see if somebody's willing to trade for you. They got the rookie. They got that young guy, maybe defensive player of the year, rookie defensive player of the year. But shut down corners. Don't get points. Ask Darrelle Revis. They don't get points. He's very, very close to being that. He starts getting a few more interceptions, and they're going to think twice about passing his way. But 20 passes defended. Jesus. That's real good. And finally, the last cornerback that we're going to talk about is Taron Johnson for the Buffalo Bills. 91 tackles, 68 of those solo, interception, fumble recovery, fumble forced. One of his better years between here and 2020 were his 2 probably best years. In that year, he had 94 tackles, 70 of them solo, and a pick with a touchdown. I'm worried about him. He played a lot of games this year. They drafted some young talent at the cornerback's position. I don't know what the future is going to hold for him. Like I said, I think he might get phased out a little bit. Or they're going to keep him in the slot role and he's going to be a tackle hoss and maybe not as many big plays. But this year, he was up there. Next year, I say he's not going to be there. With Tre'Davious White probably healthy for the whole season next year, you're going to kind of get phased out a little bit as far as the high volume points. And the final guy that we're going to talk about, I apologize because that was only 9. Number 10 is Marlon Humphrey for Baltimore. Again, an older corner, a little season. Well, no, I apologize. He's not older. He's not that much older. He's 26. He's a little bit of the outlier. I expected him to be a little bit older just because he's been so good for so long already in his short career, only 26 years old. 71 tackles this year, 53 of those solo. He got hurt last year and missed 5 games. This year he had 3 picks, 2 fumble recoveries, 1 forced fumble, 3 sacks, highest sack percentage of his entire career so far. The only other time he has any sacks in a season, he had 2.5 in 2020. I don't have a lot to say about him. He had a good year. He gets a lot of tackles. He's decent on interceptions. He's just a guy. I mean, he's honestly, in my opinion, he's a little too good for the stats that he's getting. So that says something. But with Baltimore, their corners have been solid for a long period of time. Last year, they had a significant drop off because everybody was on IR. But will he be up here again next year? Probably not. Like I said, it was a little bit of a down year for corners as far as stats go. I mean, we're only talking about 13 points a game, and that's good enough for top 10 in the cornerback room. Not ideal. So probably not there next year. So finally, we're moving on to the safeties, the final position that we're going to be talking about this week. Number 1, Jalen Petrie, rookie safety out of Houston. I talked about the preseason, but this guy outkicked his own coverage. I mean, just had a stellar year, dominating performance, 99 solo tackles, 48 of those more assisted for 147 tackles. That's linebacker numbers. 1 sack, 5 interceptions, 8 passes defended. I mean, ridiculous. 147 tackles. So, just so that you're aware, one of the best tackling safeties that we've seen in the past few, years has been Budda Baker out of Arizona. His best season was 147 tackles. His best season. Dude, Jalen, that's what I said when I talked about him coming out. He likes to hit. He's not afraid to make contact. But the amount of interceptions that he's had was just as impressive. He was just right place, right time. A lot like the fellow rookie Jaquan Brisker, who just missed the top 10. But he had, like I said, 5 interceptions and a fumble recovery. He just got it done. Insanity this year. So what do you think about him going through? He's going to be awesome. He's going to be on a team, Houston, that's still going to be a few years away from having a prevalent offense. Even if they draft a quarterback early in this draft, they're still going to be on the defensive field a lot. And Jalen's going to dominate a lot. They got themselves a winner with this kid. Congratulations. Number 2 on the list is Rashawn Jenkins for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He had some really explosive games. Now, he had 116 total tackles, 73 of those being solo, 3 interceptions and a touchdown, and a sack, 3 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery. A lot of this amazing scoring for Rashawn Jenkins was based upon his December 18th game against Dallas, where he had 2 picks, 2 passes defended, obviously with the picks, 9 assisted tackles, 9 solo tackles. Is that the game? Yeah, and then he had 1 of those for a touchdown. Outside of that, he was good, but honestly a lot lower scoring week to week than I would really like. He's had some solid weeks, but to me, he's had a few really big games and a lot of so the end of the the consistency metric on him is really low. The end of the season, I don't feel like Rashawn Jenkins was the number 2 safety in the league. Tell me if I'm wrong, but to me it feels like a little bit of some big plays here and there caused him to step it up a little bit. But to me, I don't feel good about this being a repeat performance. He's also got Andre Sisco there. Both of those guys are solid corner or safeties. But Rashawn Jenkins took advantage of some opportunities this year, and I don't expect him to continue that going forward. Number 3 on this list is a kid out of left field by the name of Julian Love for the New York Giants. Big tackle years for safeties. 124 tackles for this kid. 79 solo, 45 assisted, 2 picks, 5 passes defended, 2 fumble recoveries, and a sack. Last year, what did he do last year? 66 total tackles. Doubled his tackle output. Doubled his sack performance. Just got the playing time. Took care of the playing time. Showed that he's a capable player. He's also a free agent. With that being said, I don't know. I don't know where they're going to be. He's 24 years old. He's got a lot of football left in him. Came from Notre Dame. The fact of the matter is that he wasn't high draft capital. He was a 4th-round pick, but he has played himself into a good contract. Where that good contract will come from, I don't know. If he stays with the Giants, I feel very good about him. I feel very good about Brian Daboll's system that he has in place, that they're going to continue success with him in this role. If he goes somewhere else, he might not even be a starter. It's a tough one because he kind of came out of left field this year and did great. That being said, the guy that we're going to talk about next on the list, Talanoa Hufanga, out of San Francisco 49ers, also came out of left field this year. Where, he went from 4 to 5 fantasy points last year to over 15 a game this year. Went from 32 tackles to 97, 66 of those being solo. He had 2 sacks. He had 4 interceptions and a touchdown. This guy, I heard some chatter about him in preseason. And, man, he just blew the doors off this place. Ended as the safety number 4 on the entire season. Had a very nice volume on tackles. Not as high as some of these other guys, but very nice volume. Big playability. I expect more good things out of him as well. These guys are young. It's only his 2nd year in the league. We've already talked about Petrie, 1st year in the league. Love, 4th year in the league, up for his new contract. And then Hufanga is in his 2nd year in the league. These are young guys that are just balling out. And if you have one of them, congratulations. I think that those 3 guys have staying power once again if Love stays with the Giants. I think Hufanga is going to stay with 49ers. Obviously, he's got 2 more years under the belt. But, yeah, it's a bit of a changing of the guard when it comes to safety this year. It's been significant changes in the top scorers. But one guy that's not a change is Derwin James coming in at number 5. What can you say about him, man? You put him out there, you feel good about the product that you're getting back. He had 4 sacks this year, 115 tackles, 64 of those being solo, 2 picks, 6 passes defended. He's just all over the field. On a point-per-game basis, this is one of his better years that he's had. Granted, in 2019, he got hurt, only played 5 games, missed all of 2020. 2021 came back, looked solid, played 15 out of the 17 games, and then this year he played 14 out of the 17 games. So you kind of have an expectation that you're going to have a few games missed by this guy. He hits hard, he's an angry player, and he pays a price from time to time. But, man, he's a great baller. He's the catalyst of that defense for the Chargers. He's the guy preseason you expect him to be at close to the top of the list. He made it to number 5. Made it to number 5 while missing 3 games. If you put it up point per game basis, he's number 2 on the list, just behind Jalen. So, there's not much to say. You have him, you're keeping him, you're not trading him, outside of the fact that if you're a little bit tired that you miss a few games from him. But the games he gives you are phenomenal. And now let's talk about another newcomer to the list, the 27-year-old Donovan Wilson for the Dallas Cowboys. Took over the starting role this year, and that led to 101 tackles, 77 of those being solo, 5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, a fumble recovery, and a pick. Listen, great season. Number 6 on the list. I think he stays. I think that he, cap casualties help him be a guy that can just come in and play good. That defense has been stout. They've had a lot of really, really good players this year. But if you remember listening, we haven't talked about very many of them. They haven't had their highlight guys. One guy, last year they had two guys in the corners, top 10. This year, none of them. And Donovan Wilson's the first D-back we're talking about. But this is a guy that I actually feel like has staying power going into next year, as long as he keeps the safety role. The safety role is his point scorer on this defense. It's all about volume. You're on the field, you're getting the tackles, you're taking care of business. If he plays smart, he plays talented, I have no concerns that he's going to be able to repeat. Maybe not top 10, but top 15 easy. So Donovan Wilson is a guy that I would go get. If the price is right, I'm not going to overspend for a guy that most people don't even know the name. But if you have him and you know what he's capable of, hang on to him. Safeties that get consistent points are hard to come by, and this is another guy that he's not making big plays. He's getting consistent points every week. Probably between 2 to 10 tackles a week. I'm sure, looking at his stats, he's had multiple 10-plus tackles, assisted and solo combined, weeks this season. Feel good about it. And with that sack upside, love it. I love it. Number 7 on this list, Richie Grant. It's another guy coming out of a bit of left field. Second year in the league. He's only 25 years old. It's a second-round pick last year. What do you have to say about it? 120... God dang, man, 123 tackles. What's going on with these safeties? More so, what's going on with the linebackers? Why are they letting all these guys get past them? It's probably just because it's more of a passing league, and that's it. But 123 tackles, 70 of them solo. 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery, 2 interceptions, 7 passes defended. Richie Grant is a monster. Absolute monster. He came from, last year? He only played in 5 games, had 28 tackles, 35 tackles, 28 solo. Another guy that's just coming in and not afraid of putting his nose to the grindstone and taking care of business. Another guy that I would feel good about having on my team. He's young, he's talented, he's getting the tackles. These guys are putting up linebacker numbers, and I'm here for it, man. I am here for it. Just as a comparison, in the league that I'm looking at stats from, the top the top safeties versus the top corners, we're talking about probably a 50-point drop from these guys easily. It's just crazy how these tackles are just throwing them up there. But Richie Grant's another young guy that's getting the tackles. He's capable. He's getting all the snaps. You feel good about it. This is 100% a changing of the guard season. As soon as I say that, next guy on the list, number 8 on the list, is good old Minkah Fitzpatrick. He dropped off on tackles this year. He went from 124 last year to 96 this year. But, don't worry. He made up for it from 2 interceptions to 6. And throw in a touchdown. Throw in 11 passes defended. Never been a sack guy. They don't use him as a sack master. But, man, he takes care of getting tackles. He handles his business. He also only played 15 games compared to 16 last year. So, he ain't getting 30 tackles in a game. But it helps a little bit with those numbers. But the 6 interceptions to me feels a lot more like how I expected it to be. His rookie year he had 2, then he had 5 in 2019, 4 in 2020, a little bit of a lower year in 2021 with 2, back up to 6. This guy is a playmaker. He's just a ball hawk. He understands defenses. He's another great Pittsburgh Steelers safety that is I expect him up here every year. I don't expect him to fall off. He's only 26 years old. Safeties don't really have a fall off. They just have a retire off aspect to their game. So if you're thinking about, well, is he a little bit older? Should I trade? No, you shouldn't trade him. You could trade for him. It's all hit or miss, but I'm a fan. Always have been of Minka. I think that he's going to continue to be solid, great. Like I said, he had a down year in tackles and still finished in the top 5 and finished about the same amount of fantasy points as he did the season before because of the interceptions. Now, number 9 on the list, I'm going to be honest, is a guy that I'm kicking myself for because I had him on my team and I dropped him feeling that it was just kind of going to be not sure how he was going to do it. And that is Cleveland Browns safety Grant Delpit. He missed his entire rookie year in 2020 with an Achilles tear. 2021, he was okay. 66 total tackles, had a sack, had an interception, had some flashes. Well, in 2022, he really poured it on. 105 tackles, 72 of those solo, another sack, 4 interceptions on this defense. I expect this guy to continue to be good, continue to get better. And, I mean, the sky's the limit for this guy. He's going to be in a better offense, you would assume, going in next year. So he'll be in a better situation to get more tackles in the secondary. And by all means, he's another young safety that looks great. And the last guy we're going to talk about is a guy I'd prefer not to because he beat out Jaquan Brisker by less than 2 points. But we're going to talk about him because he finished in the top 10, and that's Jonathan Owens of the Houston Texans. 4 years pro, 27 years old, out of Missouri Western State, if you care. Blew up this year. 125 tackles. 84 solo, 41 assisted, 1 sack, no interceptions. This is I am available on the team, and I'm going to make tackles because you're putting me on the field. That being said, he's a free agent. So what's that mean for this one, Seth? If he leaves Houston, which good chance he might, see who takes his place. Opportunities there to be a big-time tackler. Because we're talking about 125 tackles for Jonathan Owens and 147 tackles for Jalen Petrie, same defense. Got opportunity there. So Jonathan Owens leaves and they draft another rookie safety. I'd be picking him up. Now, I say all that to just remind you that they are going to have a new coaching staff, so everything can completely change on this defense. But guys that have a nose for the football are guys that have a nose for the football. I don't necessarily think Jonathan Owens has that. He hasn't shown that per se in past years. For instance, last year he played in 7 games and only had 18 total tackles. It's just an opportunity situation. But keep an eye on those kind of guys. Like I said, Jonathan Owens, free agent. Julian Love, free agent. If they leave, who takes their place? Opportunity breeds points when it comes to defense, and that's what we really need to look at. Few guys that we just missed that were big-time names. Harrison Smith finished as safety 20 this year, 33 years old. He is, in my opinion, falling off a cliff. They drafted a safety, Lewis Seen, I believe, who was injured all the year. I'm curious to see how he plays next year. That's a guy that is a big hitter as well, kind of the Harrison Smith mold. So they basically drafted his replacement. But with him being injured all year, didn't get to really learn a lot from Harrison Smith. So I'm curious to see how that pans out for this coming year. Jalen Thompson finished as number 15 on the list for Arizona. I expect him to have a monster next year. depending on the Buda Baker situation. He hurt his shoulder, cracked his shoulder blade final year, and he finished as, safety number 12 on the list. A lot of tackles, not nearly as many as some of the other guys have had this year, but. And then Javon Holland is the other guy who finished as cornerback 13 this year. Massively improved from last year, as I expected him to. He went from 69 tackles to 96 tackles. He had 2 interceptions versus 2 interceptions last year. More playing, more ability, but that's another one where once again, the defensive coordinator got fired. Who knows what that's going to hold for the future. But I have droned on and on and on. This is a long episode, but I wanted to get through all these people so we can start talking about where we were expectation-wise for some of these players and then start moving into some of these drafted players. The rookie draft is going to be here in just a few short months. I'm so excited to get to talk more about that. But until then, just a reminder that defense wins fantasy. We'll see you guys next week.